Have you ever stood on the doorstep of your wife's parents' house at midnight, clutching your own house keys in your pocket? Keys that no longer unlock her heart? She looks at you with empty eyes and calmly says, "I need a month to figure out if I miss you." You swallow the hurt because you love her. And 3 days later, her friend texts you. She's flying off to a resort hotel with another man. Before we start, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Outside, Charleston's night was sticky and heavy, the kind that holds on to heat long after sunset. As I drove through the quiet streets with the windows down, the wind did nothing to cool the fire building in my chest. We'd been married 7 years. Not perfect, but real. We had morning routines, grocery lists on the fridge, Friday movie nights with cheap pizza, and endless commentary on plot holes. We weren't flashy, just steady. Or so I thought. But lately, something had cracked. She started coming home later, laughing at texts she never explained. Her eyes didn't linger on mine the way they used to. Still, I never imagined she'd just disappear into silence. That night, the only thing louder than the tires on the road was the question I couldn't outrun. When did I stop being her home? And worse, why did she stop telling me I wasn't? The Wilkins house sat back from the road like it had something to hide. White columns, flawless shutters, not a leaf out of place. It always looked like a postcard. But tonight, it felt like enemy territory. I parked, but left the engine running. Just sat there staring at the front porch. One light on upstairs, one downstairs, and a curtain twitched. Someone was already watching. I stepped out and slammed the car door harder than necessary. The front door creaked open before I even reached it. Laura's mother, Diane, stood there in her pink house sweater, eyes wary, mouth tight. "Hey, Nathan," she said, like the words hurt. "Where is she?" Diane didn't move, didn't step aside. "She's resting. It's been a long day." "It's about to get longer," I muttered. Behind her, Frank, Laura's dad, appeared in the hallway, arms crossed like a sheriff. He said nothing, just stared. And then she came into view. Laura, my wife. She wore a navy sweatshirt that wasn't mine, leggings, bare feet. Her hair was tied back like she hadn't planned on being seen by anyone tonight. "Are you serious?" I said from the doorstep. "You're hiding here like we're in the middle of a custody battle?" "I'm not hiding," she shot back. "I needed space." "You could have taken space without vanishing. You don't get to check out of a marriage without a single word. I told you where I was." Hours later, Laura. She flinched at her own name, like it stung. "Keep your voice down." "No," I said, stepping fully onto the porch. "You don't get to control how loud this gets." Her parents stood frozen, unsure which side to take, or if they should take any at all. "You're coming home now." She scoffed. "I'm not a child. You can't drag me anywhere." "I'm not dragging. I'm asking, as your husband, to come with me so we can talk like adults." She glanced back at her parents, looking for cover. None came. Frank turned slightly away, and Diane wouldn't meet her eyes. And I saw it, that flicker of panic, because deep down she hadn't expected me to show up here. She hadn't expected to be called out, not in front of them. She wanted me to sulk at home, boil in silence. She hadn't planned for confrontation. "Go get your bag," I said, softer now. "We can scream in private." She hesitated, but then turned and disappeared down the hall. Minutes later, she came back with her purse and a canvas tote, walking past her parents without a word. I held the door open. She didn't thank me. As we stepped into the night, I heard the porch swing creak behind us. A rustle in the bushes, probably Diane watching. We didn't speak until we reached the car. Inside, the silence was anything but comfortable. I didn't start the engine right away, just stared ahead. "You humiliated me," she said, arms crossed, staring out her window. "I humiliated you," I repeated, stunned. "You ghosted me for an entire night, and I'm the villain?" "I needed space." "That's not betrayal." "No, betrayal is what comes after space," I muttered. "Right now, this is just negligence." She looked out at the quiet street. "I'm not sure how to be in this anymore." "Then say that. Don't hide behind your parents' lawn and pretend we're fine." "I never said we were fine." My hands gripped the steering wheel. I stared straight ahead. "Laura," I said finally, voice low. "If you want out, say it. But don't slowly bleed this marriage dry just to avoid feeling guilty about ending it." Her jaw tightened, but she said nothing. I started the car. We drove in silence, streetlights casting pale shapes across the dashboard. Charleston blurred past, and beside me sat a woman I once knew better than myself, now a stranger with my last name. She stared out the window like the road outside held more answers than I ever could. Streetlights slid across her face, soft gold, quick shadows. We were halfway through the suburbs, and she hadn't said a single word since we pulled away. But inside my head, 1,000. I gripped the wheel tighter, trying not to show my hands shaking. Why did it feel like I was chauffeuring a stranger back to a house we used to call home? I could hear the faint click of her nails tapping against her phone screen. Probably texting someone. Probably not her mother. Definitely not me. I glanced her way. You always disappear when things get uncomfortable now. Her eyes didn't move from the window. I wasn't trying to disappear. But you did. Silence. I exhaled, tried again. What's going on, Laura? I mean it. If something's wrong, if you're not okay, I need to hear it from you. Not from some secondhand meltdown or a vague, I need space line. She didn't answer right away. Then, so softly I almost missed it, she said, I don't know who I am anymore. That hit harder than anything else she could have said. The confession hung between us, delicate and unfinished. I didn't respond right away, didn't trust myself not to make it about me. Instead, I let the quiet settle, the kind that doesn't demand an answer. And in that quiet, I thought about the last 6 months. The late nights, she stopped coming to bed. The way she turned her body away from me. Little by little, until we were sharing a mattress, but not a life. We used to joke about growing old together. Now I couldn't remember the last time she looked at me with any softness. The light turned red. I stopped the car. Nathan, she said suddenly, as if my name hurt to say. Have you ever felt like you're living someone else's version of your life? I didn't answer right away, because yeah, I had, lately, all the time. The house, the job, the carefully measured dinners, the bills, the routines, the way we both pretended not to notice how quiet things had gotten between us. It felt like we were stuck in a life someone else had picked out for us. A well-behaved marriage going stale behind closed blinds. I admitted. The light turned green. We didn't move. I finally spoke. But I thought we were in it together. She nodded once, not agreement, just acknowledgement. Finally, I eased forward. The engine hummed beneath us. Back home, I pulled into the driveway slowly. The porch light I'd left on still glowed. Our porch swing creaked in the wind like a memory. Laura didn't move. I shut off the car and rested my hands in my lap. So now what? She stared straight ahead. Now I need time. I turned to face her. Time for what? To figure out if I miss you when you're gone. The words stunned me. I felt them like a slap, but colder, deeper. Before I could even react, she was already opening the door and grabbing her bag. I watched her walk up the steps. Didn't follow. Didn't stop her, because the truth was, I didn't know what to say anymore. She wanted space. Fine. But part of me already knew. She wasn't planning to come back the same. The suitcase was loud, not in volume, but in meaning. I stood in the hallway, one hand against the doorframe, watching Laura fold sweaters with surgical precision. Like this wasn't her life, just a trip. Like it was temporary. You're not going anywhere tonight, I finally said, my voice rough. She didn't answer, just smoothed the sleeves of a sweatshirt and laid it neatly beside a pair of jeans. One of my hoodies was still folded in her drawer. She skipped right over it. I mean it, Laura. She zipped the suitcase halfway. I'm not leaving tonight. That threw me off for a second. Hope sparked, flickered. Then she continued, not meeting my eyes. I'm staying here, in the guest room. She finally looked up. I need a month, Nathan. A month to see if I miss you. A sentence like that shouldn't come with such calm. What is that supposed to mean? I asked, my voice not loud but fraying at the edges. She sat on the edge of the bed, brushing her fingers through her hair like she needed something to do with her hands. It means I need to live in the same house, but not the same life. No checking in, no dinners, no updates. We live as if we're strangers under one roof. I need to know if losing you would even register. You say that like you've already lost me. I don't know what I've lost, she admitted, eyes on the carpet. That's the problem. I took a step forward. So I'm just an experiment now? Her lips tightened. Don't twist it. I'm not twisting anything. I shot back. You're the one standing here like this is a lab project. A test run. A trial separation. What do you think you're going to find, Laura? Silence. The kind that bruises the air. She stood, zipped the suitcase, and wheeled it past me without another word. Her bare feet padded down the hallway, soft thud with each step. The guest room door opened, then closed. And that was it. I stared at our bedroom, the bed we'd picked out together, The frame I'd assembled while she read the instructions with a beer in hand and laughed every time I cursed at an Allen wrench. Now that room felt too big and too empty. I didn't sleep much that night. I sat on the edge of the couch in the living room, flipping through channels without watching anything. The hum of the fridge, the occasional groan of the old ceiling fan, the hollow sound of my own thoughts. Those were the only things keeping me company. Every time I thought about knocking on that guest room door, I froze. Because what if she didn't open it? What if she did and still told me she needed space? I replayed her words again and again. To see if I miss you. You don't say that to someone unless part of you already knows the answer. And the terrifying part, maybe I already did too. But admitting that meant something had broken. And I wasn't ready to say it out loud. Not yet. The first sound I heard was the roll of a suitcase. Not the alarm, not birds, not her voice. That dragging thump against the hallway tiles pulled me up from the couch like a slow-moving punch. I stood groggy and followed it into the kitchen, still in yesterday's clothes. Laura was at the door, hoodie zipped up, eyes down. No. Good morning. You're really going? I asked, voice raw. She didn't answer right away. Just turned the handle. You're not even going to look at me? She sighed, deep and exhausted. Nathan, don't make this harder. I'm not the one packing a bag like you're heading off on a soul-searching retreat. I snapped. She turned around. Would you rather I disappear without saying anything? You already did that last night. That landed. Her mouth opened, then closed again. I told you I need space. That's all this is. I stepped forward, voice quieter now. From me, or from the life we built? She looked away. That was all the answer I needed. Where are you even going? My parents for now. Then I don't know. I just need to think. Please don't follow me. I nodded, swallowing hard. So that's it. You're just walking out the door to go figure out if you even care about this marriage. Laura hesitated. I didn't say I don't care. But you didn't say you do either. She looked up then, eyes tired. Nathan, I don't even recognize myself lately. I wake up, go through motions, smile at people, and none of it feels like me. I need to know who I am when I'm not in your orbit. That's not how love works, I said, shaking my head. You don't hit pause to test the signal. Well, maybe this is the only way I'll know if it's still real. I didn't have a comeback for that. She turned the knob. I'll check in. Don't, I said before I could stop myself. If you want out, then go. But don't keep me on some emotional leash just in case you get lonely. She froze for a second. Then she stepped outside. I stood there as the door shut, the click louder than it had any right to be. Later that day, I found myself at Carver's. Jeff was already there nursing a beer and a basket of cold fries. He didn't look surprised to see me. She leave? He asked as I slid into the booth. She walked out like she was going for coffee. I muttered. Didn't even look back. Jeff leaned back. That's brutal, man. I nodded slowly. She says she needs a month to figure out if she misses me. Jeff raised an eyebrow. Misses you? Like you're a pair of headphones she misplaced? I smirked, barely. Something like that. He studied me for a second. You want the truth or the friend version? Truth. She's not planning on coming back. I looked at him, jaw tight. You don't know that. I don't need to, he said. Nobody bets on absence unless they're already halfway out the door. I sat back, fingers drumming the edge of my glass. She said she doesn't know who she is anymore. Jeff snorted. None of us do. That's no excuse to vanish on the one person who's been there the whole damn time. I exhaled. I kept thinking if I stayed steady, she'd find her way back. Man, maybe it's time you stop waiting for someone who walked away on purpose. That hit harder than I expected. I stared into the foam of my beer, quiet for a while, then said, she didn't even take her wedding ring. Jeff shook his head. Then maybe it's your turn to take off the blindfold. That night, I moved her empty mug to the back of the cabinet, not as a statement, just to make space. 3 days later, I got a message. A simple text from Gwen, one of Laura's old college friends. Hey, this might not be my place, but Laura is here at my apartment. She's packing for some trip. Thought you should know. At first I thought I'd misread it. I read it twice, then a third time. Packing for a trip. She said she needed time, clarity, to sit in silence and think. Not cocktails by a pool. I typed, where's she going? Gwen replied after a moment. Some resort north of Asheville. Said she needed the air. She's not alone. Not alone. That was the phrase that lit the match. I didn't respond. Just grabbed my keys and left. The drive took 90 minutes longer than it should have. I hit traffic, wrong turns, A moment where I nearly convinced myself to turn around, but I didn't, because something inside me had shifted. Not rage, not revenge, clarity. It came in quiet waves during that long drive. Thinking about all the moments I'd dismissed, the night she smiled at her phone, the emotional absences I'd written off as stress. She was already gone long before she walked out. I just hadn't caught up to it yet. Gwen lived in a red brick duplex tucked behind a gas station. When I knocked, she answered like she'd been waiting for it. Her eyes flicked past me, like she expected backup. "She's still here," she said quietly, packing upstairs. "Is he here?" I asked. Gwen shook her head. "No, but she's meeting him there." I paused at the foot of the stairs, hand tightening around the railing. I'm not here to yell. I just need to see her for what she is right now, not the version I keep trying to remember. Laura was in the hallway, folding a swimsuit into a carry-on. She turned fast when she saw me, the blood draining from her face. "What are you doing here?" "You left your silence wide open," I said calmly. "And someone finally walked through." She tried to close the suitcase. I stepped forward, reached into my back pocket, and pulled out 2 folded bills. "Here," I said. "If you're struggling, take it." Her eyes narrowed. "What is this?" "Help." She scoffed, grabbed the money, and threw it back at me. "Don't try to buy your way into my guilt." "I'm not trying to buy anything," I replied, voice low. "I'm trying to walk away with a fraction of dignity left." Her face twisted. "Is that what you think this is? Me out here partying?" "I'm trying to breathe, Nathan." "Then breathe," I said, stepping back. "Just stop lying about who you need to do it with." From the corner of my eye, I saw Gwen shift uncomfortably in the doorway. "I wanted to be the man who saved you from your storm," I added. "But you were never drowning. You were boarding a cruise." Laura crossed her arms. "You're turning this into something it's not." "No," I said. "You already did that." I walked toward the stairs, pausing halfway down. "You won't need to ask for space anymore," I called without turning back. "You already got all of it." Outside, the sun had dipped behind the mountains, casting long shadows across the pavement. I stood by my car, hands braced on the roof, letting the cold bite into my knuckles. She hadn't chased me, and I didn't wait for her to. Back in Charleston, I didn't go home right away. I parked by the marina, where the smell of salt and engine grease mixed in the evening air. Boats creaked softly against the docks, ropes pulled taut like old promises. I sat in the car, engine off, watching the water shift with the wind. There was no plan anymore. No fight to win. Just the echo of everything I didn't say when I should have, and everything I said that didn't matter. Jeff texted around 9. "You back yet?" I replied, "Yeah, just needed some air." A minute later, he called. I didn't answer. Couldn't. Not yet. Instead, I scrolled through my photos, something I hadn't done in weeks. There was Laura in a sun hat laughing at a crab shack in Beaufort. Her feet in my lap on the porch. A blurry photo of us on Halloween. Me as a tired zombie, her as a sarcastic witch. We looked real, but what stood out wasn't the smiles. It was the weight behind them. Mine especially. I looked tired in all of them. Tired of holding something together that didn't want to be held. The next few days blurred together. I worked late, ate standing up, answered texts with single words, slept on the couch more often than not. Even though the bed was mine again, the guest room stayed locked. I didn't go in. Didn't need to. I had no more questions left to ask it. It was Jeff's cousin, Maddie, who eventually pulled me out of that fog. We'd met once at a barbecue a few years ago. She taught art at a local elementary school, made terrible jokes about oil paints, and asked too many sincere questions. Jeff had invited a few people over for a casual get-together. I went mostly out of obligation. But when I saw Maddie again, something inside me stilled. She had this calm way of sitting with silence, like she wasn't trying to fix it, just hold space for it. We talked about nothing at first, her students, the way the weather kept pretending it was spring, my favorite coffee shop on Broad that had changed owners and ruined the muffins. But later, as people drifted home, she turned to me on the back porch and asked softly, "Are you all right?" It caught me off guard, because it didn't feel like a question you answer with a shrug. I didn't say yes. Didn't say no either, just stared at my hands. She didn't press, didn't flinch, just sat there beside me while the wind pushed the trees into hushed conversation. We started meeting for walks after that. Nothing serious. A few laps around Colonial Lake, coffee afterward. Shared stories about students and awkward neighbors, and the weird little ways the city always smelled different after rain. It wasn't romantic, not yet, but it was honest, and that felt rarer than anything else lately. One afternoon, she asked if I'd ever been to the rooftop bistro above the old furniture store. Said the food was mediocre, but the view was worth it. We went the next Friday, and for the first time in weeks, I didn't check the door. Didn't brace for a voice that wouldn't be there. Didn't imagine Laura walking through the restaurant and freezing mid-step. It was just me and Maddie, and it felt real, small but real. After dinner, I snapped a photo of our hands resting near each other on the table, not touching, just near. I didn't post it right away, but something inside me wanted to mark it, a moment that didn't hurt. You don't notice the weight you've been carrying until someone sits beside you and doesn't ask you to explain it. That's what Maddie became for me. At first it was just group hangouts, trivia nights Jeff dragged me to, a few porch dinners with too much grilled corn and too little seating. Maddie always found her way next to me, but never in a pushy way. She'd ask real questions, nothing heavy, just sincere. What's something that always made you feel like yourself, even when life didn't? That one stopped me cold one evening over beers. I told her I used to sketch buildings as a kid, not dream houses, but gas stations, ugly motels, weird concrete parking garages, places people never noticed. Maybe because I felt unnoticed too, I added. Maddie didn't say anything, just smiled and nodded like she understood more than she let on. We started getting coffee, at first always in groups, then just the two of us. It wasn't romantic, it was warm. Like her presence filled a space Laura had left so empty I'd forgotten it was even there. She had this habit of turning her cup 3 times before she sipped. Wore mismatched earrings on purpose. Knew every stray cat in her neighborhood by name. When she laughed, it was full body, no apology, and I found myself wanting to say things just to hear it. One Sunday afternoon, we sat on a bench downtown watching a street artist sketch portraits in chalk. "Do you miss her?" she asked suddenly, not turning toward me. It took me a second. "I miss who I thought she was." Maddie nodded. "That's a hard kind of missing." I glanced at her. "You're not afraid to ask hard things, are you?" She smiled faintly. "No, but I don't need answers. Just the truth." The more time I spent with Maddie, the less Laura's silence haunted the house. I started opening windows again, cooking real meals, sleeping in the middle of the bed. She didn't fix anything in me. She just made it feel okay not to be fixed. At a group beach day, someone snapped a photo of all of us on the sand. Jeff, Maddie, me with a sunburned nose and a towel I hadn't used. Maddie was laughing mid-sentence, my head slightly turned toward her. Later that night, I stared at that photo longer than I meant to. There was peace on my face I hadn't seen in years. Not joy, not yet, but stillness. And that was more than enough. The sun was setting slow over Charleston when we stepped onto the rooftop. Maddie looked around, visibly impressed. "This is fancier than your usual dive bars." I grinned. "Don't get used to it. I had a coupon." She laughed, brushing a curl behind her ear, and we took the corner table. The view was everything I remembered, river glinting in the distance, amber streetlights blinking to life below. But this time, the quiet wasn't heavy. It was good quiet. Maddie folded her menu and looked over at me. "You've been lighter lately. Stillness in your shoulders. It's nice." I let that land before answering. I filed the papers. Her smile faltered, not in discomfort, but in that honest way she always gives space for what matters. She asked gently, "When?" "A week ago." No drama, no texts, just walked it into the office, signed, and left. She nodded slowly. "You okay with it?" I don't know if okay is the word, but I'm not haunted anymore. That was the closest I could come to the truth, and it was enough. She didn't say anything more about it, just reached her hand across the table. Her fingers found mine, and there it was, warmth, steady, quiet, unassuming. So I took a photo, not of her face, not of the view, just our hands. Nothing staged, no angles, just honesty. I didn't even tell her I'd taken it. Later that night, I posted it. No hashtags, no locations, no smiling faces, just that photo with a caption. "Sometimes you don't start over. Sometimes you start finally." Didn't tag her. Didn't say a name. But by morning, it had more attention than anything I'd ever posted. Old friends, co-workers, even people I hadn't spoken to in years. Likes, comments, messages, a few curious emojis, a handful of "glad to see you happy," and one message that changed the temperature of the entire day. Laura, who is she? That was all it said. No hello, no context. Just 3 words loaded with every ounce of curiosity, panic, and disbelief she'd managed to hide for weeks. I didn't answer right away. I looked at the message, closed it, reopened it, then let it sit while I made coffee. Maddie had no idea the ripple effect that photo had triggered. She was probably in her classroom already, surrounded by paint-splattered 8-year-olds and brushes with frayed ends. Meanwhile, Laura was on the other end of the screen, staring at a version of me she no longer recognized. That wasn't revenge. It was reality. And for the first time since everything fell apart, I felt like I was standing in my own life again, not waiting to be chosen. Who is she? That was all it said. Laura's message sat on my screen like a spark waiting for kindling. No preface, no greeting. Just the question, like I owed her clarity after months of silence and years of slow erosion. I didn't answer, not at first. I let the words sit there while I folded laundry, made tea, stared out the kitchen window. Her timing wasn't an accident. She'd seen the photo. Of course she had. Just our hands resting close together on the table. No faces, no names, but the caption had been enough. Sometimes you don't start over. Sometimes you start finally. Apparently that was louder than anything I'd said directly. It wasn't until the next morning that I replied. Her name is Maddie. A few seconds passed. Then the typing bubble popped up, vanished, popped up again. Since when? I read it twice. There was something brutal behind those words, like she wanted to sound indifferent, but hadn't quite nailed the tone. Since after you left, I wrote. We knew each other before that. But we didn't start spending time until you made it clear you were done. That did it. The flood came next. You filed behind my back. You didn't even tell me. I had to hear from your cousin. That's how little I mattered. I exhaled, gripping my phone tighter than I meant to. Laura, you were with someone else. You didn't tell me anything either. You asked for space. I gave it. Then I saw what that space really was. She didn't reply right away. Then came, you've changed. I stared at that, not with anger, not even sadness, just recognition. I have, I wrote, for the better. That evening, I told Maddie everything. We sat on her back porch again, string lights glowing above, her paintbrush moving slowly across a canvas. She wasn't in any rush to finish. I posted that photo, and Laura texted 24 hours later. I said it was like waking a ghost. Maddie looked at me carefully. Do you want to respond? I did. I told her the truth, that I'm not in love with her anymore. She didn't say anything at first, just reached for my hand and held it quietly. I thought it would feel messy, I added, letting go, but it didn't. It felt like putting down something I'd been carrying way too long. I'm proud of you, she said, not excited, not wide-eyed, just steady. It meant more that way. Later that night, another message came. Do you think about me at all? I didn't respond right away. Instead, I sat on the couch with the lights off, letting her words hang in the blue glow of the screen. I typed, I think about the version of us that used to laugh at 1 a.m. and slow dance in the kitchen. But that wasn't real anymore. I don't hate you, Laura. I just finally chose me. The dots danced on her end, then disappeared. She never wrote back. And that, somehow, was the real ending. I was making dinner when the doorbell rang. Nothing fancy, just pasta, some garlic bread, music playing low in the background. I wiped my hands on a towel and walked to the door, not expecting anyone. Maddie was coming by later, but she always texted first. When I opened it, I froze. Laura, standing there in a slate gray coat, hair tied back like it used to be, makeup minimal, but her eyes, they were everywhere. She looked me up and down like she hadn't quite believed I'd answer. Hi, she said softly. I didn't say it back, just stepped aside. Can I come in? I hesitated, then nodded. 5 minutes. She stepped in slowly, like she was waiting for something familiar to greet her. It didn't. She looked around. You changed the living room. I had to, I said. It didn't feel like mine anymore. She nodded once. It's cleaner. I raised an eyebrow. What do you want, Laura? She blinked. Can't I just see you? Not without a reason. Not after everything. She bit her lip. I saw the photo with her. I figured. Is it serious? I tilted my head. It's honest. That's more than I can say for what we had toward the end. Laura looked like she'd been slapped. She dropped her eyes to the floor. I didn't come here to fight, she said. Then why did you come? She looked up. Her voice broke, just slightly. Because I thought maybe part of you still wondered. I did, I said. For a long time, I kept thinking maybe you were just lost, that I should wait, give you space, be patient. But I see now what you needed wasn't space. It was escape. That's not fair. No, it's not, I agreed. But it's true. She sat down without asking, hands folded in her lap, like she was trying to pray without the faith. I thought about you, she said, more than you know. Thinking and choosing are different things. She looked up sharp. Do you love her? I didn't answer that directly. Instead, I said, I love who I am when I'm with her. Laura nodded slowly. So you moved on. I didn't move on, I said. I healed. That's not the same thing. Silence filled the space between us. You were always the steady one, she said. Always there. I thought you'd always be. That was the problem, I replied. You mistook my loyalty for a promise that you'd never lose me. But love isn't about standing still while the other person drifts away. She stood, brushing invisible lint from her sleeve. So that's it, that's closure? I said yes. Her eyes filled, wet, but defiant. I hope she breaks your heart, she said quietly. I smiled, not cruelly, just sad. I hope no one does, I replied. She walked to the door, hand on the knob, paused. I really did love you, she said. I know, I replied, but not in the way I needed. Then I opened the door for her, and she walked out of the house, this time for good. No suitcase, no explanations, no pretending, just gone. Later that night, Maddie came over. We ate pasta on the couch, legs tucked close, her laughter soft and warm. She asked, everything all right? I nodded. Everything finally makes sense. She rested her head on my shoulder. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel like something was missing.